I do not have a problem with any of the names of any single other character in this entire fucking series. It is just him.
Welcome to my world. I can't remember anyone's name to save my life. I remember Frieren, Fern, and Himmel. One of them's not even our main character. Stark?
Thank you! Yes! That's his fucking name! "11 books. And I cannot remember. It's because he never shows up! He's in every book for like 10 pages, and they're irrelevant pages.
The point of his... Look, at this point we should understand the point of his character is just to show up and be shit on by Fern.
He didn't even get that!
No, not in this arc.
Okay.
They need to give him a cool fight scene.
They did, back when we first met him.
Give him another one. Throw the poor guy a bone.
I don't think they're gonna do that. I think they hate him. Hello, and welcome back to Frieren, Volume 11. A review that will be going up probably close to when the next book comes out, even though we've had this book for months and months and months. I don't think it's been months and months and months, but I'm pretty sure I did open it back up. I'm pretty sure I opened this relatively close to when I returned from Europe this last fall. So it's definitely been a few months.
My fault. I've been busy, and I've been having to put any free time I did have towards accelerating us on Seki Reacts.
That's fair. I want to figure out where Mocked started, because the Mocked arc ends here, right?
It's been a solid few volumes. It's definitely the longest arc in the series.
I suppose the major question is, does it start here?
It started at the very end of a volume, if I'm not wrong, and then we had this all, it's been at least 2 now, if not 3 volumes of full...
Aha! Alright, so, you are correct. The Mocked volume started at the end of Volume 8, and is now finishing kind of at the 3/4 point of Volume 11. So this is a good 3 volumes at minimum, 3 volumes-ish, if not a little bit more. It's quite a long arc, and I remember that when we did 9, I remember discussing the fact that the arc was going to be over by the end of 10.
What made you think that? You're the shonen man.
We literally discussed it. On video, Knick-Knack. You agreed with me. This video went up!
And I was wrong. And then I looked at 10 and saw like a third of the book was black pages.
Oh my god. A lot of this book is black pages too!
Not to the same extent. Hold up the 2 volumes side by side, and you can see the difference.
Not to the same extent, but it's certainly not devoid of black pages.
Well, none of the volumes.
Fern
is a very black page focused.
I say conservatively, in this arc alone, there's a full book of flashbacks.
But yeah, but the vast bulk of those.
Full volume.
Last volume. This volume, there's dark pages, but they're better spread out here. In the last volume was you read a full arc's worth of dark pages.
Yeah, but still. Oof,
I see it here. Oh my god, that's half the book.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is, in fact, half the book. And the other volume in the arc is a third of the book. So, it's certainly not lacking in flashbacks. So if you want some, detailed flashback building... Great. I hate it when there's this many flashbacks.
I get it. At the same time, I feel like that's also why, in my opinion, Mocked is probably the most fleshed out of any of the villains we've had.
Yeah.
Because how do you establish Mocked's character without flashbacks? And the demons aren't supposed to be the most human characters, and so he's not going to be telling, sitting next to Frieren and going on about his hopes and dreams.
I don't know. Some of the other demons did that.
Did they?
The first one kinda.
Wasn't that kind of a fucking ruse?
Yeah, but it happened. I don't know. I think this arc was too long. personally. I just it was long, and I know that long arcs exist, believe me. I read One Piece. I get it, but like I don't even if you were to compare it to the next longest arc, which is the exams. The exams are there's different stuff happening constantly in the exams. There's like the different trials and the different people. Whereas here we're working with Mocked, Fern, Frieren, what's his face, the dwarf man, or whatever, the Weiss. Yeah, Weiss. Stark, who barely appears in this entire arc. He shows up like 3 times. Like in the whole arc, and is not really all that useful in any. Well, he's useful in one of them, and then Mocked's friend shows up at the very end. But I really don't feel like we should count that.
No, he's a piece of Mocked's character storytelling. He's not.
No, I mean the girl demon.
Oh, the girl demon.
Yeah, which I mean, yeah, she's a character, but like her whole. It seems to me like her whole purpose in the plot is to provide something for Fern to fight against and learn something from, and then to just provide something for Frieren to be doing while she's not fighting Mocked in the end. She doesn't really feel meaningful in the same way that Mocked does.
In terms of the overarching story, you're right. I do think she's more meaningful than Mocked even for Frieren's character.
Possibly, but I think that's because Mocked isn't really meant for Frieren's character. Mocked is meant for Weiss's character. Like, as just a comparison, like, Mocked was never Frieren's enemy. Mocked is Weiss's enemy, but Weiss needs Frieren's help. And what he needs from Frieren is not for her to beat Mocked for him. It's for Frieren to just sit there and figure out how to undo his spell.
And I respect that they didn't make Frieren fight Mocked, be the one to finish Mocked off.
Yeah.
Because it made the Mocked fight a lot more interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah. I do think it was the ending of the Mocked fight's a bit of a cop-out. That Weiss didn't end up dying. I do think that Weiss should have died with Mocked. Like, not to be fatalistic or anything, but I think it would have punctuated his story a lot better if they had died facing one another and then the Lord had come across them and surmised what had happened, as opposed to, him hanging on and then ending up getting saved in the end. But maybe that's just me wanting, to see a little bit of death.
Maybe. I don't know. I actually like how they ended Mocked's arc, because they had, like, with his old Lord friend sitting down basically being like, yeah, I failed.
Well, yeah, no, that's great. It's Weiss surviving the conflict that I have an issue with. Not the Lord, Weiss, the magician who was fighting against Mocked. He's the one I have an issue with surviving. I just don't like that he survived. Because it feels like, he took, like, multiple fatal wounds, but then they were like, oh, no, it's okay. We'll just take him to the temple. Then it doesn't really, he had this, he couldn't really face Mocked, but he was able to because of this stuff. And we'll just save him, so it doesn't really matter that he almost died.
Look. To a Fate fan, fatal wounds are never fatal.
Demonstrably in Frieren, fatal wounds are in fact fatal. Demonstrably in this series, people die when they are killed. For realsies. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not mad that he survived, but I think it took something away from, like, the final showdown between the two of them.
Hey, I think
made it less of a final showdown.
Maybe I don't share that opinion just because I don't know that I was that invested in his character as much as I was Mock's. Like, if you were invested in this character, maybe I could see if you wanted that to be how Weiss is his name, right?
I think his name is Weiss, I think his name is Weiss. Yeah.
If you're invested in his character, I can see how maybe you felt like that would have been a much more satisfying cap off to his character arc. I'm kind of happy where they left it, but that's because I think I was way more invested in Mock's character than his, and I feel like he played into Mock's character arc pretty well.
But That's the point. I don't like him more than Mocked. I like Mocked more. It makes a mockery of what Mocked died for that he survived. It's a mockery of what Mocked died to that he survived. They went on and on for pages and pages about how the only way he was going to be able to take out Mocked was to sacrifice himself using all that he had learned, right? Because he wasn't powerful enough. And the only thing that would let him get around this is his knowledge of Mocked, right? Like his knowledge of Mocked as a teacher. And then that basically came to nothing. Like, yes, he dealt the killing blow to Mocked at like his own loss, sort of. But no, it's not actually his loss. We're just going to take him to the temple and heal him. It's fine. He doesn't actually need to die. It doesn't need to be some, like... I don't like it. I don't like it.
I guess just switching over to our main character who did not have the major emotional arc with Mocked for obvious reasons.
No.
But I do feel like they did a good job showing how the demons, just as a race, the demons are a foil to Frieren's experience. Like, the demon she was fighting, I forget her name, directly called her out on that towards the end of the fight.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair, but that's... I mean, no offense to the writer, but that's been the point for every single demon they've faced. And every single demon seems to just do a better job at driving the lesson in. And it doesn't really ever feel like Frieren's in trouble. Like, she doesn't really have problems with any of these combats. Whether it be because, magic's moved on since they've been sealed away, and there's very easy ways to counter this fatal spell that existed 100 years ago, which that's a valid one, right? Or like simply, she's hiding her aura, and she is just more powerful than this demon. Okay, that was great for the first demon, but like... We're now at the point where, like, the justification for her taking a heavy hit from this demon and for giving us any sort of fear is just that she was splitting her attention, and once she doesn't have to split her attention, it's fine. She's just gonna bitch slap this thing down with, like, 2 attacks. When is Frieren actually gonna be challenged? I mean... If anything, the most challenging part of this arc for her was figuring out the mechanics of the golden magic. It wasn't fighting this demon at the end. It was just figuring out how to undo the golden curse, in my opinion. Which, that is valid. But then why couldn't Fern have overcome this demon with the help of Stark? I get that Frieren's really powerful, but I don't know. Maybe I'm at the point where I don't just want to see that the reason why she took a hit was because she was slightly distracted, and in reality she was definitely way more powerful than this demon, and it really didn't take her very long to turn the fight around once she wasn't distracted. You know what I mean? Because that's kind of how it went. She was like, at one point the fight just like flips on its head, and the demon's like, oh, this is, and then it's because the golden curse breaks, and she's like, oh, you were still working on that. And she's like, yeah, you're right, this energy attack thing's actually really efficient. And then the demon dies. And it's not even from Frieren that the demon dies. It's Fern coming back. What point did Frieren have in that fight? She didn't have a point. You could have done the emotional stuff just talking to the demon as it was dying. It just didn't matter. It didn't matter. Also, the fight was really just caster balls. It was 2 people standing, facing one another, shooting caster balls, basically. It wasn't even anything that interesting. Ugh. I mean, I read it today, so, like, that's my fresh take on it, you know? It just didn't... I don't know. I wanted Fern to defeat the demon. I think that would have meant more if, like, Fern had managed to win against this powerful demon, because then it would have been a leap forward in, like, Fern's character story. And it technically Fern did, but Frieren weakened the demon in between Fern facing it this first time and then delivering the killing shot. So does it really count as Fern's victory if Frieren did, like, a chunk of the work in the middle, but then why does it matter to Frieren that she did a chunk of the work when she wasn't the one to create the initial injury, nor was she the one to actually finish the fight? She just occupied this demon for like 20 pages while Fern powered back up. Does that make sense? Like, the fight doesn't make sense.
I'm not in any position to break down this fight. I read this like a week ago.
I don't know. I was not a fan of the climactic battle between her and the demon.
Guess we just have differing opinions on this arc, because like this arc for me was, I'm here like,
no, but I'm not talking about the whole arc. I'm talking about this final fight. Like, I have different opinions on the arc overall. It's the final fight I have issues with.
maybe, I mean, I'll admit this. I don't go into manga for like, and this is a failing on me probably. I don't really go into manga paying that close attention to how these fight scenes are choreographed. Anime, I do it all the time. Novels, I can catch on to some pretty great stuff. Manga, I tend to be looking, like, I read the dialogue and I'm like, good art. And then I'm not, like, following the complexity of the scene that well on manga, to be honest. But that's me, and I've never been, like, One Piece, I couldn't tell you the exact choreography of any of the One Piece fights we read from Alabasta.
But it's not even, I don't think it's even the fight choreography. It's the framing of the story through the fight. Right? Because the fight, Frieren's, like, put aside Macht's fight. Whether or not I care about who survived in the end, Macht's fight was great, right? Mm-hmm. Because it was Macht's student, Weiss, overcoming him, using all of the things that he had learned as a young man, and then the things he had learned in the 50 years since, right? That's a great story. It's a great fight, right? In terms of how it's choreographed. But, like, even outside of the choreography, okay, so another demon shows up, right? And tells Frieren that she's killed Fern, right? Fern and Stark. And Frieren has no visible reaction to this. None. No reaction at all. She does not react in any way to this other than to say, oh, okay, right? And we don't know if she knows that this is a lie yet at this point or not. They do not reveal to us if Frieren is aware if this is a lie or not. She just has no reaction, which, in my opinion at least, the way that it reads, is it shows that she hasn't learned anything from Himmel, right? And her friends getting old and dying, right? A. And then B, oh no, Frieren's actually having a bit of a struggle with this fight. She's finally facing someone who's, like, on a competitive power level with her, right? Wrong. She was just focusing on doing something else while she was fighting. And now that she's back focusing on the fight, she's just gonna, like, curb stomp this fucking demon, right? Except she doesn't need to curb stomp the demon, because Fern appears and kills the demon, right? Frieren has no reaction to Fern appearing to kill the demon, right? Good for Fern, but Frieren really has no reaction, right? And then the fight's over. And the most important thing that Frieren did was to break the curse. That's the most important thing, but her presence in the fight was irrelevant if Fern was going to defeat the demon anyways. And why did she have no reaction? If, like, we didn't even get a scene at the end of the fight. There wasn't even a moment at the end of the fight where she was like, I knew she hadn't killed you or something, you know? Like, she didn't even acknowledge whether or not she knew if Fern and Stark were actually dead. Life just moved on for her. I would have
I can tell you my thoughts, but I read this a week ago, so if I don't have the exact details, the exact details and intricacies of this memorized, I do apologize. But how I read that was, I feel like I read that as it was a gamble the entire time. She didn't know if Fern was alive.
But why would she not react in any way, either to what the demon tells her, or to the revelation that Fern is alive at the end? Like, where's the emotion, is what I'm asking. Because, like, we are seeing emotion in the flashbacks with Himmel, right? Himmel and her friends. Why are we not seeing corresponding emotion with her current traveling companions at all yet? Is she just not bonding with them? Does she not care? Can she not care until 100 years have passed and half of them are dead? I thought she was learning. Where is the learning? Like, demonstrably, where is the emotions coming into play? I think we get more emotion in the moments when Fern's telling her, why the fuck did you buy another shadow dragon horn? Than we do in, like, the actual impactful moments in the middle of, like, action. Is she just always dead-faced and impassive in the middle of fights and unwilling to give anything away? Okay, if so, why didn't we have, like, an emotional thing afterwards? Like, we're 11 books in. I need her to show some emotion towards Stark and Fern, outside of comedic moments. Like, I need it. We're 11 volumes in. We're like 100 and something chapters. Why is there no reaction? And if there's no reaction for a reason, why do we get no explanation of this reason? Why is there no demonstration or reasoning for this? It just hurts a little bit, because it feels like we're seeing all of her emotions seem to be directed towards her memories of Himmel and her friends, not to her new traveling companions or anyone new she meets. It's only to people from her past. So is that trying to insinuate that she has yet to actually create bonds with Fern and Stark the way that she had with Himmel and the party? If so, show me, right? Like, that's understandable. She's only traveled with them for like half, like barely even a tenth of as much time, etc. Like, she's barely known them the same length as the others. But like, then I want to see that she doesn't yet like feel the same about them. But then there are moments when they're like they're sitting in the infirmary. She pulls out the fucking shadow dragon horn that's like rife with dark energy, and she's like, look what I got. And they're like, Frieren, what is that for? And she's like, I don't know. I just want it. Where's that moment at other times in the story, on non-comedic times in the story?
I don't want to like go against you too much here, because I don't want to feel like I'm shooting down your analysis of it, because A, you read this more recently than I have, and B, I'm not going to claim to be like the expert on Frieren here. But I've never gone into Frieren expecting Frieren to be that expressive of a character. Every emotion she shows feels extremely intentional, including some of the times where she's in these comedic moments being unbelievably stupid. I don't remember what it was I saw, but I reread a section of panels the other day that was of her trapping herself in a mimic. And like, it was her face, like, I don't remember what it was. I think it might have even been a little side thing that was released, but her face is just, you can tell on her face she wants it to be a mimic because she thinks it's funny. Which
is fair, but like, then once again, why? I don't know. It doesn't feel right that we're still not getting any emotion from her in reference to like Fern having potentially died and Stark having potentially died, right? As if she knew that they weren't dead, then I would have expected her to say something. It didn't even have to be like an emotional declaration, you know? Other than just like when Fern shows up, if she'd said something like right on time or I was expecting you here earlier or something, would have given an indication that she full-heartedly believed that Fern and Stark weren't dead. But she didn't even say something like that, you know? We wouldn't even have had to been a big emotional moment, like one offhanded sentence would have demonstrated like enough for the characterization. But it isn't there, at least not that I remember. And so it feels like Fern's not emoting.
You mean Frieren?
Yeah, Frieren. Fucking F names. Anyways, I do think it's a good arc. I think it dragged on too long, personally, and that's probably because of the sheer amount of flashbacks. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, you really could have covered that in far less story space than you actually used. You know? We definitely didn't need all those flashbacks. This arc could have been shorter. And I think it should have been. But that's just me.
Just on the reverse side of that, I really like this arc. It's just... I feel like it's for me the most interesting of our demon encounters, and it could be that this entire arc's being carried by Mocked for me, because Mocked is just flat out our single most fleshed out demon. And I think this arc's made the comparison of Frieren and the demons a lot more apparent and a lot more front and center. I'm curious to see if they do anything more with that going forward. If they, because that's where if I have any disappointment and understated reactions from Frieren, it's not that Frieren didn't react to Stark and Fern's potential deaths, because the way I see it, I feel like Frieren, it was a coin toss if they died or not, and she was going to react when she got there, cross the bridge when she got there emotionally. But the demon directly calling out the fact that, like, just her similarities to the demons, that to me is interesting, but I don't think we get a lot of Frieren's internal thoughts about that. So I'm wondering if it's something Frieren's already thought about, or if it's something that Frieren's going to have to confront more fully in the future. I'm curious. I wish we would have gotten a little bit more on that, but I'm not confident that Frieren won't have to come up with that they won't come back to that later.
Look, I don't disagree that Mocked is the best demon that we've had so far, right? I absolutely think that Mocked is the best demon that we've had so far. It's the best demon arc that we've had so far. I just think it took longer than it needed to in terms of, like, page space, right? And maybe that's because some of these fights needed to be shorter, you know? Like, you could have cut a solid chunk out of some of these fights, in my opinion. But I do think Mocked is so far the best. I'm actually more excited now. I care now more about when we meet with the Demon King, because the only thing of value, I think, that the other demon coming in gave us, right, was her commentary that both Mocked and the Demon King in different ways wanted to coexist with humanity, right? That, in my opinion, was the only part of this second demon appearing that I even cared about. That was the only part that mattered. This second demon was irrelevant to the plot, right? Completely, except for dropping us that kernel of information that the Demon King too wants for coexistence with the humans, but in a different way than Mocked, and did not succeed when he tried.
Let me throw you a bone here. I'm going to say one thing I think the arc did blatantly wrong, and I wish they wouldn't have done. They shouldn't have killed off the second demon. The fact that
I don't think there was any other option. They brought her in as a sacrificial lamb. I mean, like, how would they not have killed the second demon? They brought her in by having her almost murder Frieren and then try to murder Frieren. She was always going to die the way that they introduced her. You put a demon in front of Frieren, it's going to die. Like, what were they... Like, how could you see a way that demon would have lived?
This demon, unlike other ones we've had so far, was a lot more passing through. This one was not as involved in the... Like, usually when we have the demons, they're involved with something in the area. Like, they're there to either attack something, or Mocked is doing this entire Golden City thing. Mocked wasn't leaving alive.
Mm-hmm.
This demon was just passing through, and this demon passing through made Frieren even the slightest bit nervous and warning Fern earlier on. I think if this demon had a lot more room than most of our other demons to leave, and could have been because that's the one thing we really don't have right now is the Demon King, we only have these slight allusions of the Demon King. We don't really have any character, like, long-term character foils that Frieren is bouncing off outside of just the demon race in general.
But this demon is here because she was helping Mocked.
Was she directly helping?
Yes. Yeah. Both during the time when he was working in the city with the humans and now. Like, that is directly stated in several flashbacks in Mocked's backstory. This demon chose to hang out with him and spend time with him and help him with his mission to understand the humans because this demon thought it was amusing. So... I mean, that was mentioned in this, like, directly. You can see them together in the city several times when humans were still around. So, like, it's not that this demon was just passing through on a whim, saw Frieren fighting Mocked and was like, hey, look, a powerful thing, let me fight it. No, this had connection to the story. Well, they gave it connection to the story. So, like, I don't think there's any way for that demon to get out of there without being killed once it was introduced. is tacitly connected to both Macht and this Golden City. You know? Either way, it's going to be months before we get the next volume.
Well, I'm excited for the next volume because we leave off on kind of a cliffhanger here.
I already have a theory, though, and that makes it not as much of a cliffhanger to me. Because remember, she mentioned that the last time that she was studying because they go into the Northern Kingdom, and they find this really cool sky dragon thing that's kind of like Laputa, but a dragon. And then they go to look at this stela, right? The stela with some like ancient mystery on it, like magic to figure out. And she's like, yeah, the last time I was here, I think I lost like a week. And then at the end of the story, she appears back. I think that's what happened. She just...
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that's what happened.
Yeah.
But it...
I guess it doesn't really... for me, it wasn't much of a cliffhanger, personally.
I'm more curious to see what the character interactions that happened to current Frieren, because she doesn't remember what happened. Himmel would have remembered what happened, but what is this going to say about Himmel and Frieren's characters? Is like our one chance, and they can't do this again. To like get Frieren and Himmel to have an interaction within this story.
Possibly. I'm more interested in once they get into the Northern Empire. I want to see the Northern Empire and more world building in this world. That's what I'm more interested by the end of this volume in than her and Himmel, I think. I think that's just because like I always know that they're going to keep bringing Himmel up. I love Himmel, but like it does feel like Himmel's our fourth traveling companion at times, as opposed to like Stark and Himmel gets more screen time than Stark does. I mean, Himmel's memory gets more screen time than Stark does. But I am interested in the Northern Empire. So there is something I'm looking forward to in the next volume.
I just like seeing more. It's almost like a puzzle for me seeing Frieren's character being pieced together over time.
That's fair. I think I would like a little bit more on our current characters. Perhaps. But anyways, so it'll be a few months before we see volume 12. The release has slowed down into English in the book forms. We always knew it would. The first 6 books came out practically monthly, and the books aren't coming out that fast in Japan. I do think the Japanese release is still 1 book ahead of us. So volume 12 is coming out in February or April. Mm-hmm. 13 is already out in Japan.
But this series also just went on hiatus, to my memory.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And there is not a volume after 13 out currently. So, make of that what you will. There are a bunch of chapters out, so worst case scenario, we get to volume 13 when it comes out, and if there's at least another full volume worth of chapters out after that. So, we've got plenty to read. No worries, but it's going to be a while. So, I don't know what's coming next. Neither does Knick Knack. Neither do you, unless we announce it in a community post. So have fun, and we'll see you with whatever we're reading next. As is the custom.